I am a fraud. I've been using Blender for 4 years, but I still can't model anything complex. This, made in Character Creator. This, commissioned. And this problem is holding me back in everything. So I gotta lock in and finally learn 3D modeling the proper way. To be fair, I know the basics of modeling. I can make table. However, I've never been able to make a detailed object, let alone a character, and you can clearly see that. So this is what I'm gonna be learning, not modeling from scratch. But how am I going to check if I actually improved? Well, I've dug up some of my old models from 4 years ago. To visualize my progress, I'm going to remake 2 of these models and create a third one from scratch. Also, I'm setting one rule here. I cannot texture anything. The models have to look good without them. This way I'm forced not to cover my mistakes with textures. The first one I'll be remaking is this arcade. Yeah buddy, I can see why you put it so far away. Before you ask, those are joysticks and not anything else. Actually, this model serves as a perfect example of lack of reference pictures. You can clearly observe that I haven't even seen a real arcade and made it with a fuck it we bowl mentality. And this lack of reference leads 9 out of 11 artists to create shitty models. Mark Wahlberg. He actually said that. If you don't believe me, Google Mark Wahlberg 9/11 quote. Anyway, to start improving my models, I need to gather a lot of references to make a realistic 3D recreation. So after I got enough pictures, I can almost start, because during my research I discovered there are many ways you can 3D model something, like box modeling, sub-D, which we will use on the next one, and sculpting. For this type of simple object, it's best to use the box modeling method, meaning that I just have to follow the pictures by moving and extruding faces. I started out with the big shapes, trying to match the silhouette the best that I can. Then I moved on to smaller objects, including buttons, where I followed the reference closely to make the buttons feel authentic. This is why having reference is so important. It shows us how authentic things look so we can translate it into our medium. You can clearly see the difference between the old and the new buttons, even only looking at the placement of them. Who the fuck could play that arcade? Galactus? King Kong? And would you look at that, I'm finished. I could now start to glaze myself on how much better it looks, but I think the result speaks for itself. Also, still till the end of the video to see how I upgraded this model even further. Next up is the robot, and if you know a thing or two about modeling, you may think that I went back to the file and made it worse now for content. But trust me, this is actually how it turned out in 2022. I'm just as confused as you are. The robot is based on the concept art by Dmitry Burmark. However, it will be extra hard to model based on this reference. Since I don't have any good side and front views, I'll have to use my artistic skills to fill in the gaps. I think the biggest issue of the old robot is everything, but the head is definitely the worst offender. In the old model, I chopped a sphere in half and it looked terrible. To improve it, I need to learn a new approach. I need to have circles with good topology that I can easily manipulate. So after a bit of research, I did the most logical thing. Added a cube. But if you have at least one functioning eye, you may be able to see that it doesn't really resemble a sphere. Enter. Hence the sub-D method name. I can apply it to a cube and it transforms it into a sphere that I can easily manipulate, because under the hood it is still the original shape. And now I can begin to create the head with much more control. Eventually I can apply the subdivision and that will transform the cube into the shape that it is on screen, with a pretty decent topology at that. But some of you may wonder, what is a good topology? Don't worry, in 2022 I also didn't know that, which is why the model looks like this. To put it simply, every 3D model should be created with evenly spaced quads, so that it deforms well in animation and for many reasons it's just easier to work with. With that out of the way, I can now start adding more details that I couldn't straight up do in the previous model, like these panels. Also, do you see those legs? What the fuck happened here? To improve it, I can use the technique that allows me to duplicate the faces from the base mesh and then extrude them out. That way, the leg follows the curvature of the body. The feet were modeled in a similar way to the arcade, so I don't have much to say. And with that, the second model is done. Whoa, what am I doing here? You're not supposed to see that. I wonder if it will be important later. I don't know. Okay. Now it's time to put to the test all that I learned about reference and topology and create a proper 3D character. In a low poly style, that seems a lot easier. But first, I need to gather references and decide who the character is and then draw them. I want them to look cool and not like a common criminal, since most people hate crime. Mark Wahlberg. He also said it. Again, if you don't believe me, Google Mark Wahlberg hate crimes. Also, if you're waiting until the drawing looks good, don't. I'm not good at drawing. And if you think I drew the character in a helmet because I didn't want to create the face, you're absolutely right. So this is the character that I drew, and I'm sure Mark Wahlberg would love. Probably because he isn't Vietnamese. I can now finally begin to start modeling. Shit. Okay, the low poly stuff is much harder than I thought. Who would have thought that creating shit with more primitive tools is harder? I can go two ways about it. Either I can continue making this model that will look a little underwhelming but possible and finish the video earlier, or I can spend weeks trying to learn how to make realistic characters, something I don't know if it even will look good, and I will have to learn plenty of new skills. Remember cubes with subdivision modifiers? I hope you do, since they will come in handy right now. Because to start, I need to block out the main body with subdivided cubes. This gives me a ton of easy control over the form and silhouette. However, if you see this and say people don't look like that, I would cry a bit, but I would agree with you. I have to add much more details that I can't do with box modeling or sub-D. I have to change gears to sculpting, but for that I need much more geometry to work with, so I have to combine all of the cubes, then I can increase the number of faces on the body and I can start to shape the main forms. Also, I added already modeled hands, so the challenge is cancelled, and after this video I will report myself to the police. I'm sorry. But getting back on topic, I can now add or remove volume with this digital clay, so I can create those sharper shoulders, or... With the general shapes done, I can move on to smaller details like patches on pants or... However, even with the forms done, the clothes still look stiff as hell. The reason for that is lack of folds, you know, the stuff that makes cloth look like cloth. Thankfully, sculpting is perfect for this, so I can easily create folds and seams on the jacket or pants. So now I'm done with the sculpting, but the model is far from finished, because now I need to add all the accessories like zippers and the belt along with the helmet. Luckily for me, this stuff involved a lot of techniques from the previous two models that I did. For example, the helmet is a subdivided cube that I can easily manipulate to get the shape I want, exactly like the head of the robot. Damn, it's almost like I'm learning something throughout these weeks. And wow, I think I'm done. Let me just rig it so I can give it some cool poses. What is that smell? Oh! Remember when I gave the model a lot of geometry? Yeah, turns out it has like 6 million faces right now. So if I try to do anything with it, my computer would just fucking die. So how do we fix it? To solve this, I need to retopologize it. Remember when I explained topology? Yes? Good job. Retopology is creating a lower detailed version of the base mesh. Essentially, you just trace over your low poly mesh over your high poly sculpt, ensuring it's all evenly spaced quads. It's a pretty simple process, you just have to... This is the only model I've retopologized on my own, so if there are any Blender gurus that aren't shills for AI, leave your comments below on how to improve it. And with that, I think I'm finally done. Thank God there is nothing more to do and I can show you the final result. Okay, fine, it's finally time to resolve what I've been teasing. I've secretly UV unwrapped and textured all of the... I secretly UV unwrapped and textured all of the models, but only after they look good without the textures. But before I show you everything, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to my channel, because this video was a ton of work. With that out of the way, let me show you all of the free models with textures. I gotta say, I'm really proud of all of the models, especially the character, but do let me know what you think in the comments. I learned a lot. and it was really rewarding seeing my shitty drawing transformed into a post 3D character. It's really exciting that I can now create anything I put my mind into. I'm no longer tied down with what I can't do. I can realize all of my ideas. I can respect all the people. Mark Wahlberg. He didn't say that. I wonder where I can apply this knowledge now.